Welcome to NewsHour from the BBC World Service. This is Owen Bennett-Jones, and today, a peace deal between the Ethiopians and the Tigrayans. Can it end 2 years of brutal conflict?
The fact that we have reached a point where we have now signed an agreement speaks volumes about the readiness on the part of the two sides to lay the past behind them and to chart a new path of peace.
Also, Israel today, having been in power for 15 years, Benjamin Netanyahu looks like he's got another term.
We are heading now to form a new government that will lead the nation in a different direction, where we're going to respect our tradition, our Jewish values.
And we'll try to understand why Russia is once again allowing Ukraine to export its grain. It's all coming up after this bulletin of the latest world news.
Hello, I'm Emily Thomas with the BBC News. The Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has described the ceasefire agreement signed between the government and officials from the Tigray region as a monumental step for the country. Both sides have pledged to allow unhindered humanitarian access. Our senior Africa correspondent Anne Soy reports from Nairobi.
It's a major breakthrough, but it will be received with a wait-and-see attitude. This is not the first ceasefire in the two-year conflict. A previous one was breached in August, just months after both sides committed to it. This time, though, the agreements have gone further. The Ethiopian government officials and representatives of the Tigray People's Liberation Front have signed up to a disarmament plan and the restoration of crucial services.
UN officials have warned that climate change is fueling global health crises, including rising cases of disease and potential famine. The World Health Organization says warmer temperatures and increased flooding are leading to more cholera, malaria and dengue fever. Here's Imogen Foakes.
Climate change is making us sick. The WHO has recorded at least 26 cholera outbreaks this year, more than the previous 5 years combined. Successive droughts in the Horn of Africa cause crops to fail and livestock to die. Aid agencies believe famine in Somalia is now imminent. Longer term, studies suggest global warming will subject parts of Africa to such extreme heat that human life will become unsustainable.
A court in Paris has sentenced a former Liberian rebel commander to life in jail for violence against civilians during Liberia's civil war and complicity in crimes against humanity. Kunti Kamara was a senior officer in the Limo armed militia which oversaw a reign of terror in northwest Liberia in the 1990s. Eyewitnesses gave harrowing testimony during the 3-week trial. The accusations against him included publicly murdering a schoolteacher whose heart he then ate. Anti-government protests following the death in custody of Mahsa Amini having concluded in many cities of Iran, with her home province of Kurdistan a particular flashpoint. Our Middle East regional editor Mike Thompson reports.
Protesters in the city of Sanandaj, capital of Kurdistan province, set fire to tyres and litter bins, blocked roads and chanted slogans against the country's supreme leader. Demonstrators also took to the streets of Marivan, where students had running battles with security forces. Elsewhere, chanting mourners gathered at a cemetery in Nosha, north of Tehran, to mark the 40-day anniversary of the death of a protester. In Shiraz, students staged a sit-in to demand the release of arrested classmates, and there were further protests in the southeastern city of Zahedan.
BBC News. America's central bank has approved another sharp rise in interest rates as it tries to rein in fast-rising prices. The Federal Reserve said it was raising its key interest rate by 0.75 percentage point, lifting it to its highest level since early 2008. It hopes the move will bring down persistently high inflation. With nearly 90% of votes counted in Israel's fifth election in 4 years, the former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to return to power. His bloc, which relies heavily on a far-right party, the ultra-nationalist Religious Zionism, is predicted to take 65 of the 120 seats. Two major donors have said they may restart payments to fight deforestation in Brazil because of this week's presidential election win by Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Germany and Norway had frozen funding for Amazon protection under Brazil's outgoing president due to his weakening of environmental safeguards. A 105-year-old man in northern India has generated headlines by casting a postal ballot for assembly elections in Himachal Pradesh. Sanjay Dasgupta reports.
He is just one voter in a remote Himalayan village. So why was a red carpet laid out and a musical band played as Shyamsaran Negi turned out to cast a postal ballot? Not simply because Mr. Negi is now 105, though that matters. He happens to be the first voter to have cast a ballot in India's first ever democratic elections in October 1951, about 4 months ahead of the rest of the country, as his district in the high Himalayas becomes snowbound in winter. He did it again on Wednesday, his 34th election vote. India's first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru had described the hour of independence as a tryst with destiny. Mr. Negi's vote is being described by the Indian media as his date with democracy.
Sanjay Dasgupta reporting. That's the latest world news from the BBC.